Hey everyone, welcome back to The Boring Life. The Boring Life, episode 8. Okay, well, I think I put my cell phone the other way because now I'm noticing that the camera's on this side. Okay, I have to make sure I look that side. Sorry, I gotta adjust the volume here. I gotta move a little closer. Okay, maybe it's better now. Can you hear me better now? Okay. Now you get to see a bit of the inner workings of what it's actually like to run this audio operation. Yeah, so I have these little knobs and dials. Oh, the wiring is really complicated. It's really hard to show you. I'll show it to you next time. If you really want to know, then you can just leave a comment or something, and I'll tell you more about it. So this week we are going through the week of. Let me look at the calendar. May 18th to May 26th, 2019. Oh, I forgot to tell you the intro. Right, so if this is the first time you're watching this, The Boring Life is all focused on showing you the week in the life of entrepreneurship, just my kind of entrepreneurship. And that's one where I'm not funded by it's not like a VC funded company or anything. It's just me trying to make my dreams come true. And it's all about just following me, talk about building out my platform called OMD Ventures and what it really is like, just as I go through week by week of trying to create this vision of mine into a reality. And if you don't know what that is, then I recommend you check out the site omdventures.com to get a better idea. But at the same time, honestly, I'm still constantly figuring it out myself too. Like, I have a far off vision, but yeah, but the day to day, the processes, what I do, just doing the same thing over and over again, just writing, reading, talking to people, learning, thinking, executing. And a lot of it is really boring. And so that's what this vlog is about. It's about documenting all the boring stuff that actually happened and all the boring stuff that leads to the one or two big interesting results that everyone acknowledges or talks about or understands. But nobody gives a shit about the process. So I'm just talking about the process because this is all that really matters. So what happened this week? Let me look through my notes. Oh, I'm getting really close to the end of the month, which means that this no pastry bullshit is gonna come to an end soon. But I was good. I was good this week. I had some friends offer to buy me pastries. It was heartbreaking saying no to that, but the habit of the month is no pastries, and I am happy to say that I was good all week and staying strong. You can see the stress on my face as I am living without my pastry drug. Although I guess I'm kind of cheating because I still get to eat cookies because cookies are not pastries under my definition. Pastries are what I consider like cake, brownies, everything French pastry, anything you buy from a bakery except cookies. And whatever, sue me, I really don't care. The way I see it is, alright, if I only eat cookies, it's just one less, and I don't eat pastries. It's just picking, instead of having two evils, I just choose to have one. So whatever, maybe I'll cut cookies out too in the future, but at this point this is how I'm living. And it's still hard enough not eating pastries, but it does help my bank account a little bit. Yeah. So what else happened? Other than that. So I meditated in public for the first time. That was a little weird. Well, it actually wasn't weird. I thought it would be weird. And yeah, it turned out just fine because the reality is nobody really gives a shit what I do. Like, everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to look so weird in public. Nah. Nobody cares about you. And that's something I had to get familiar with when I just sat in a Starbucks and I just decided to turn on my loving and kindness meditation and just sit there with my great posture and just close my eyes for 10 solid minutes. It was strange, but lovely. And I also did a really nice thing. I helped the stranger out with his iPad because he asked the girl in front of him and she just flat out ignored him, and he looked at me and made a funny face, and I looked at him and I made a funny face of, oh, I don't know, dude. And then we struck up a conversation, and yeah, I was able to help him out. So I thought that was a very nice thing I did. Gave myself a little pat on the back, and yeah, I just thought I did a good job being human. What else? Ooh, so this is something I'm very excited by. It's not necessarily new this week, but it's the first full week where I actually did this every day, and so my past system included an hour of writing every morning because you know essays don't just pop out. I have to actually publish them and write them. And so I used to just have a set session of 1 hour writing, but I realized that when I write, sometimes I just really don't want to write, and I have no ideas, and I just kind of sit there, and it's just part of the work. I just sit there. But I also noticed that I also have a separate habit of reading. But when I read, I have all these ideas, and sometimes I want to write about these ideas, but then I have to restrict myself and say, oh, you can't, because this is a reading hour. Write when you have your writing hour. And so I felt very restricted in terms of how creative I could be, because it just seems that reading, writing, and just writing down, just ideating, just thinking in general, it just all happens in tandem for me, at least. And that's something I've been continuously observing. And so I decided, okay, what if I just set out time to just have like a creativity hour? And so I just now created a new system where every morning I give myself 2 hours to just read, write, and think. And it's been amazing. It's definitely been a game changer in terms of how happy I am. Like I can genuinely feel myself like smile. Like you feel the lips curl up as I'm just in that 2 hour zone, and time passes by pretty freaking quickly. So that's another good indication of things working out. So that's been a new part of the system, and I'm very happy about it. So that's a big win for me, and I hope to continuously apply that constantly. And on that kind of topic of reading, so that kind of led me to read books really quickly. So I think I mentioned last week that I finished the book Maverick, and I started Richard Feynman's book. It's this one. I'm about I think a third in, or maybe about a quarter, and that took about a couple days of reading. But in the middle of it, I ordered another book called Not Fade Away by Peter Barton and Lawrence Shames. Long condensed version. I picked out this book because Chris Sacca, the famous venture capitalist from Lowercase Capital, he said he gifts this book to all his entrepreneurs, and it's about a kind of a media tech mogul who gets diagnosed with cancer. I think it's stomach cancer. And so he retires at 46, but he gets diagnosed with cancer at like 48. And he dies at, I think, 51. And him and this writer he partnered up with, they write a book about this process of dying. And it's short, but very well written and very emotional. I think this is probably the first book that I read where I could actually feel tears coming out, because it's just such an emotional book. And I think it really has to be a book where you are driven to read it. Like I've known about the existence of this book for a while, but I've recently more been at the place of I want to become more familiar with my own death and just mortality in general. And so this was like this perfect book for me, where like I was reading Feynman's book and I just had this like gut feeling, this calling of I want to read that book. I want to read Peter Barton's book, and I want to hear his life and his perspective on what it was like to, you know, get the news of cancer and live 3 years knowing you were going to die relatively soon, and how he handled it. And so that it was an amazing book. I can't recommend it highly enough. And like I finished the whole book in 2 days, 3 days. So that was a very big development for me personally, from kind of a mental health as well as just kind of wisdom perspective. And I don't think I would have been, and I think having that 2 hour creativity block instituted into my system allowed me to build out that mental headspace to really get into the book and think more, write ideas on it. And so that was really cool. And that was honestly a very big highlight for me, is reading the book and trying to digest a lot of the emotions and learnings from it. What else happened? Something on a little lighter note. So Steven Shedletsky, he is the head of brand experience at Simon Sinek Inc. So the Simon Sinek company, which is named after Simon Sinek, the person who wrote Starting with Why, as well as Leaders That Eat Last, and the new book coming up called The Infinite Game. So I've been a big fan of Simon Sinek. He has the viral TED Talk. And Steven was, I think he was like the 4th employee to join up with Simon. And so he has a fascinating story. And practically when I didn't really get the full understanding until I had the interview with him. And it was only then that I really learned that he was going through this path. He had gone through the path that I'm kind of going through now. And so that got me so engaged into the conversation. And even if you aren't me, you will still be so engaged. Like, it's just such a fascinating story. Like, you know, he joins Suncor and the Suncor Energy and their leadership team. 1,000 people get laid off in your first day, and then starts this journey of trying to help people find, fulfillment in their work. And so this was a super cool podcast interview that went out, and immediately after Steven shared it, I think I really experienced the power of someone who has a very strong network, because my platform, like my website, got an error triggered because it had a sudden surge of people visiting it, all happening in a day. And so I got all these exclamation marks like popping out in my analytics engine, and I think I've had like 60 people view my profile on LinkedIn, like people I've never I have like no business knowing. And I think I got 10 or 12 new subscribers for the newsletter as well. And so this was a huge just uptick in terms of the number of people that were coming onto the platform. Like, I was having like easily 130 plus unique visitors on the platform on that day the episode went out. So that was really cool. Like, I felt I know I didn't earn, it's not me doing it, it's Steven's network, but I felt really good. I felt, happy that more people were being exposed to what I was creating and the overall platform. So that was really cool. And so that was a very happy win for me. And I also what else? I don't think I've shed too much detail. I just don't want to shed too much specific names on companies I'm potentially going to be working with until I have some kind of agreement or anything set up, because we're still kind of in conversational stages. But I think I mentioned that I have kind of 3 different kind of leads, potentially 4, because one of them's in Europe, and we've been constantly trying to establish communication. But so one of the organizations is an investment fund, and I recently just signed a NDA, and in the NDA it said to Mr. Daniel Lee and OMD Ventures. So this was the first time to actually seeing OMD Ventures in a legal contract, just as a separate entity. So I was just very proud. I was just very excited to see that. I was also very scared because it's not like being like a consultant where you have this firm that backs you or something. It's just it just felt what much more personal, and I just felt this responsibility just on my shoulders. And although even if it's like a boilerplate NDA, it just felt real. Like I earned it myself. Um, like it's not some NDA you sign because someone told you to go on a project for a job. It's just like I worked hard and I built this relationship, and now I'm signing this NDA. Like it's so cool. And so that was a really cool experience that happened uh, near the end of the week. And I've also started building or working on this consulting engagement with a startup, and we're actually like building out a content program on running effective teams. And so that was really cool, where I actually got to like I realized, yeah, like how much I enjoyed it. I got to kind of build out the whole kind of framework, the process of how I would change uh, behavior into allowing people to have more effective meetings. And so that was pretty cool to just kind of map out. And then it was nice also to kind of feel my brain just powering up again, where it's just very intensive focus work. So those two are definitely like big developments, where I feel like I am getting closer to doing the permission based work, where I guess I should work with organizations to test out my theories, hypotheses, and build out proof of concepts based on different kinds of data we collect and the tests and experiments we run. So that's definitely a step forward, which I'm very happy about. And yeah, I think an overall theme I felt this week has been something of serenity, I guess. It's tranquility. Um, I've been going out to the Toronto Harbourfront a lot lately, and to just sit there and just look, like just people watch, and just actually trying to be more present and taking everything that's happening in. And it's been great. It's like it might sound weird, and it might sound like, oh, there's the old man just coming out and saying shit like that, but like because everyone's always so busy and they have to go somewhere. You feel that when you're in a city like Toronto. But I think this week has, especially after reading Peter Barton's book of Not Fade Away, I've been definitely been trying to be more cognizant of just sitting down and not doing anything, and not feeling like I have to do anything, because you really don't. It doesn't matter. Like that meeting, it doesn't matter. That assignment, it doesn't matter. Like none of it really does matter. Lives are not going to change. Lives are not going to get ruined. Nothing's ever going to be permanent. So yeah, it was just kind of going through that process and just enjoying it, just enjoying the sun on my face, enjoying the sound of the water, enjoying just the tourists who are just constantly flocking in and out of the city, who come to visit this city, and also knowing that I get to live here. And yeah, that was a very big part of the week, because I did that constantly all throughout the week. So I get to live that kind of amazing life. So be jealous. No. Well, that's another funny thing. I ran into a couple friends, old accounting colleagues slash classmates, and one of them was like, "Oh, Dan, I'm so jealous. You get to live this free, easy life." And I immediately told her, "You don't understand. I don't feel like I don't. That doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like that. I don't. There hasn't been a single morning when I woke up saying, 'Oh my God, I'm gonna tap dance to work.' No. Usually, I wake up every morning going, 'Fuck, okay, time to get to work,' and it's discipline pulling me out of bed. It's not me jumping out of bed in excitement. It honestly never really is, and that's just part of actually doing the work. People don't really get it unless they see it, and I guess that's what the hope of this vlog is, anyways, to show a bit of that. And as part of that, I think the essay I wrote this week on, it's titled "I'm Not Qualified for Anything. None of us are." It's just the idea of that people use qualifications as a barrier and a crutch and an excuse, or it could even be a misinterpretation of what you really are trying to do. Like For example, me trying to be a hedge fund investor, people say like, oh, you're not qualified, you don't have a finance background, you don't have a CFA, you're not from investment banking. I had none of that. And I would argue having those three might actually make you less qualified, because you might get a job, but you probably won't be great at it, because those kinds of factors could actually brainwash you to think like everybody else. Ergo, you will not be good at it, because that's what the average is, everybody else. But yeah, not trying to pick any fights, but just one kind of anecdote. Obviously, it's never an absolute. There are cases where that doesn't apply, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that's the general premise of the essay. Check it out. Read it. Let me know if you like it. If you don't like it, don't tell me. I really don't care. And let's see. Ooh. On a health basis, as I said, I think mentally it was a very good week. I've also tried to stop working at night. Although I'm lying, because I'm recording this at night. It's dark outside. But I've been trying to cut off any kind of work after 7 if I can. But sometimes, it's just really busy. I have a lot of meetings, and then work spills over. So things like that happen. But overall, I've been really being trying to cognizant of like having at least one day, like a Saturday, where I don't really do anything intensive with my mind. So I have more like 6 days of intensive work, and usually that ends by 6 or 7. So then I can kind of let my brain rest for the rest of the night, which has been quite helpful. Like I've been sleeping well, which is also very important. Fasting's been great. I think I averaged 17.4 hours of fasting now as of the past week. Saturday I only fasted for 14 hours, so missed that 16-hour mark, but exceeded the 12-hour mark, so definitely making progress in my own health. And yeah, I think that's basically it for this week. A little bit of a longer rant, but I also felt that the emotional stuff that I went through this week was very important to share. And it's tough. I really don't expect you to understand it until you realize it yourself, but if you kind of feel like you're in the same place, then I hope it helped. So anyhow, so please enjoy my lifting videos that will be attached. Oh, actually, this week was also not heavy lifting. It was a deload week, which means I'm doing a bunch of random shit and a lot of lighter weights, and just kind of letting my body rest a little as well, as I just kind of get the movements going. So I actually don't have a lot of videos to share as well. I think I might have a few. If I do, then it'll come next. If I don't, then you didn't miss anything. I'm just playing around with light weights and just running around and just going on bicycles. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Peace out.